Hey there, welcome back to the Millennial Book Junkie. In this video, I'm going to be sharing the books that I read in June of 2024. In June, I read 4 books totaling 1,254 pages. 2 of the books were fiction thrillers, 2 were nonfiction, and I had an average star rating of 3.88. Now I'm going to go through them and share them with you, starting with the lowest star rating to the highest. The first read I'm going to share with you, I gave 2 stars to. It is a book called Alcohol Lied to Me by Craig Beck. So this book tells the story of the author's personal experience of quitting drinking, but it also shares his method for quitting drinking without willpower. Like a lot of other quit lit books, he talks about how alcohol affects the body. He also talks about how deceitful marketing is when it comes to marketing alcohol, which he calls, I think he calls it packaged poison, or very prettily packaged poison. He basically talks about the illusion surrounding alcohol, about how, everyone thinks it's this like really fun, great thing when it's really not. He also talks about how you can use awareness, mindfulness, hypnosis even, and also using the right vitamins and supplements to help encourage you to stop drinking. And I underlined a lot of concepts in this book because he does something a little bit different. He talks about the conscious mind versus the subconscious mind. He says the subconscious mind is always at peace, whereas the conscious mind is usually just trying to control everything. And when I mean the conscious mind, I'm talking about how we try and control the future, how we really live in the past in our heads all the time. So we're always kind of at war with the present moment. I really liked the concepts where he was talking about how the present moment is all we have. And one of my favorite parts of this book was when he was talking about how the future will never be here. Like it will never exist because all we have is right now. So he really talks about like bigger picture things in this book, which I really enjoyed and liked. But I gave this a 2-star read just because, well, number one, as helpful as this book can be, I believe, for people who are looking to stop drinking, I couldn't tell you what his method was. Like if you asked me, oh, you read this book, what was his actual method? Like I don't remember it because it wasn't like really clearly laid out. I don't even think the full method is laid out in the book. It might be, but I didn't know what the full method was. I know he was talking about hypnosis and awareness and taking supplements. But I mean, there's a lot of really great concepts in here, but I just wasn't sure what his actual method was. And so I even was flipping through the book afterward and I was like, what was the actual method? So I think that can probably deter some people from getting the benefits of this book. I also felt his language was a little harsh at times and there was a ton of typos. It probably, it seems to be maybe like a self-published book, which is totally great and wonderful, but maybe he just didn't have the best editor. I don't know. Lots of typos, and I think that can really make a book suffer. Not trying to speak from a proofreader perspective, which I am, but I definitely think that anyone who is not a proofreader would have caught the typos, especially because there is a paragraph in here that's just completely duplicate. And last thing I will say about this book is that it also, at the end, was kind of like a big sales pitch, and he kept kind of mentioning his website and to join a webinar, which I think is great when you publish a book. I think it's, especially a nonfiction, you want people to go on your website, you want people to buy your products, but this just felt a little bit too almost like the benefit of the book would be to buy the course, which to me felt a little bit like, But there are a lot of really good concepts, and actually I will remember some of these in my own alcohol-free journey. So I'm glad I read it, and I think he's doing a good job because he's helping people stop drinking, so more power to him. The second book I read was No One Needs to Know by Lindsay Cameron, and I really, really liked this book. I gave it 4 stars. I listened to the audio version of this book. It was recommended by Haley Hughes, and basically it's about a bunch of rich people. I think they're in New York, and they're all on this urban myth app that they have where you can share your secrets anonymously. You can pretty much share anything you want on the app without anyone knowing who you are. And then a lot of weird stuff starts happening. Someone ends up dead, and it's like kind of like whodunit. But I really fell in love with the characters because, they were rich people. It was, rich people drama. It was something that I didn't even realize that I liked in a thriller, but I liked it. So I gave that one 4 stars. It was really, the only thing that I will say about this one though is in the audio, I really didn't like, the narrator wasn't my favorite, but also in the writing, there was so much internal dialogue. And when there's a really pivotal moment in a scene where like you want to know what the other person's about to say, like it just took forever to get there. Like there was one big scene where like something weird happens and the woman was like asking the guy a question because he just did something so horrific. And she goes into this whole internal dialogue for what seems like minutes before he even answers what she asked him. And I was like, get going, like keep the dialogue going. Like what did he say? You know, there was like too much internal dialogue there where I was just like, oh my gosh. And so, you know, other than that, I really loved it. I just wish they would have just like kept the dialogue going in those key moments. But I really liked this book and I really recommend it for anyone who's just looking for like a quick thriller read. If you really like rich people drama and just like, I don't know, you're looking for a fun read that's quick, you'll like it. I really enjoyed it. 4 stars. The next book I read in June was The Chill by Scott Carson, and I gave this one 4.5 stars. So this book follows a town who is trying to avenge basically their death. So this town was flooded out intentionally to make a giant reservoir. So this town from a long time ago gets flooded out, and essentially like it takes place in the present day where like the ghosts of the people in this town are coming back to seek vengeance. And the way they're doing it is a very creepy way because they get involved with like one character who's like present day in charge of the dam. And basically like, I won't obviously say any spoilers, but essentially it really is like a colliding of worlds, like our mortal world and the paranormal coming together, trying to avenge this town that got flooded. And it's told from multiple character perspectives. Every chapter is like a different character, which I really like that writing style too, because it keeps it kind of like fresh and you know, you don't have one character the whole time. Also, Scott Carson's writing is so good. Like, this is one of those ones where you just have to appreciate the writing in itself. His prose is really well done, his descriptions is really well done, and I was trying to read this one quickly because I was behind on my June reads, but if I were to read it again, I would read it really slowly. It's very atmospheric too. Like if you were in a town that's like really rainy, like everything about this book is like water. And you could feel it. Like there's scenes where people are holding their breath underwater and I was literally feeling like I had to gasp for air. And there's also really great relationships in this book, like the father and the son. There was another relationship between the grandmother and the granddaughter that I really liked. And it was just really interesting and really good, really well done. I would definitely read another Scott Carson book. I didn't give it 5 stars though, just because I felt like I wanted it to go a little faster. I think it was just, even though it was so beautifully written, there was times when I was just like, oh, let's go. I want something a little bit faster. And so, but it was a really, really, really good book. I really, really enjoyed it. And I cannot wait to read more of Scott Carson. It was just very nicely done. I have to say that I was genuinely spooked by some of the scenes. And if you're a fan of like ghost stories, you will really like this one. The final book that I read in June was Paris Hilton, the Memoir. I actually did a live vlog while reading this book, which I'll link to below, but I gave it 5 stars. It was my only 5-star read this month. I just loved it. I am a millennial, and if you know Paris Hilton and you're just the slightest bit interested in her, you should read this book. It basically talks about her upbringing all the way from when she was a little girl to her preteens to her abuse at the emotional growth boarding school that she went to when she was a teenager, and talks about how she built up her brand and all the drama that was surrounding her. She talks about how she got through all that and how basically the paparazzi was just like insane. The media just like pegged her as this like, I don't know, famous for nothing celebrity, and just, you know, it was really bad. You guys remember the 2000s. You remember how they kind of framed her. But I just fell in love with her reading this book, and I ended up watching her documentary, and now I want to watch more of her. She has an album coming out, and I'm just really obsessed. So I actually think this would be a good plane read. I don't know why, but I read it on a plane, some of it, well, half of it. And it was just a really great plane read. Like I think I read it and we were landed, and it was just, I don't know, it made time go by really fast. So I would definitely pick this one up. It's really interesting stuff, especially if you're a millennial, you will really enjoy this. So that's a wrap. Those are all the books that I read in June of 2024. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. And I linked all the books down below and the authors and any other videos that I mentioned in this video. It was so great to be with you. Happy reading, and let me know what you read in June. I'm dying to know. I love all things thrillers, all things horror, but I will read the occasional nonfiction on spirituality and Jesus, which I know sounds complete opposite of horror, but that's just who I am. What can I say? All right, I'll talk to you guys later.